YouTube not.
Not yet. Now I'm live. It says now I'm live. So in case anybody gets to see this at this moment, this is our Dowland Healthcare program. We are going to discuss issues about health and long life and Tai Chi Chuan, meditation, yoga, and so on and so forth. And we are still busy trying to set up the program. This is the first time we do a multi-stream, and we have to actually try to figure out what is happening to the multi-stream because it should be. I can see myself here on the Facebook page. Can you see me on YouTube too? Yes. All right. So very good. So we are here. We are live, my dear friends. Finally, it took some effort because I had a pre-programmed as a program, but it didn't really work. Anyway, now at this moment, we are doing this program and we are going to discuss all kind of issues about health. And I don't know if anybody has any questions to start with here in the Zoom group that we also have here. Welcome. Oh, you have a question, Claudia. Can you please tell me what the question is because I can't read.
Welcome.
Okay. Welcome to streaming. Question. Okay, good.
But I do have a question, of course.
Oh, okay, very good. Anyway, I'm very happy that this works because now we can experiment a little bit more with our program to further professionalize the Q&A for your service. And so if you have as an audience and as friends of the Dowland program or as people who are interested in our education programs or anything like that, if you have any questions that I can help you with or that we can help you with, then please put them below in the comment section of the Facebook or the YouTube, and I will try to answer them as much as possible or discuss them with you so we get a Q&A thing. But it is there's a sort of delay I see in the Facebook page, so that probably is also with YouTube like that. So I don't know how much delays, but we'll see it later on. So for the Zoom, Claudia, you said you had a question.
Yes, because of all of my training, I still was wondering if I could do a little bit extra. So I was wondering if bicycling would support my trainings with you.
In itself, bicycling is a good support for training as long as you sit straight up. And in fact, if you have old-fashioned bicycles where you really sit up straight, and if you're not Dutch, you don't know what these kind of bicycles are. These are, we call them grandmother bicycles, right? So you're sitting straight up, and then at that moment your legs are below you, so that your back is straight. So that is a good bicycle to have a good effect for your body. At the moment when you sit on a normal bicycle, you lean forward, and that leaning forward actually is bad for your bicycle, for your back, right? So this is going to be counterproductive. The leg movement of bicycling also separates the upper body and the lower body. This is a disadvantage. So if you would be bicycling and you would not have a saddle, yes, so that you have to continually float in the air, that actually would be better than sitting on a saddle. Yes, if you take the saddle off and you leave the pin there, that's not comfortable. So don't do that. Yes, so you have to also get rid of the pin.
I do understand what you mean.
Yeah, of course. So for the people who are seeing me here for the first time, this was the first question, was a short question, fortunately, for this introduction. The Dowland program is a healthcare program. It is being set up years and years ago, and years and years ago, I say years and years ago, I started the first model of it in 2010 or something like this, and I used it as a model for my graduation for my PhD in 2013 or something like this. And since the time I've been building on it, developing courses, going through different iterations, and currently we have a bunch of online courses. We're still building and developing these in Chinese medicine, in different kind of Wudang, Kung Fu practices, massage, Taoist massage, and so on. And this is an extending program. We have a very wide program because health requires you to do several things at the same time, especially when you try to do a natural thing. At the moment, when you try to rely on one solution, this is basically the Western way, then at that moment you undermine your health continuously because you do support one thing, but you do not support the rest. So this multi-spectrum, this broad spectrum approach is typical for Taoists, and it means that basically you develop a lifestyle of having health or developing health and so on. So this is what I think is the most interesting part of Chinese medicine that is not being advocated by modern TCM or medical acupuncture or anything like that, because they are all rooted in Western medicine. So they all root in things where you have to specialize, while in Chinese medicine traditionally you have to generalize. You should not be too specialized, because otherwise you would start upsetting your body. This starts with the philosophy of Lao Tzu, Hong Jing, and so on and so on. It all emphasize that you shouldn't be too much specialized in one thing for your health sake, so to say. Rami, you wanted to also ask a question.
Only two questions.
Oh, two questions.
One was following up on Claudia, which is what about running?
Yeah.
She asked about biking. What about running? And the other is about the channels.
Yeah.
In Chinese medicine, acupuncture channels. I was seeing the transitions in the Wudang fitness program, and one of the last videos you talked about how they were similar to not exactly the same, but similar as some of the nerve pathways, but they kind of like encompass various things. So that gave me the impression that the channels, they're not actual physical structures, actual like function, they're kind of like the pathways that we function. Is that what it is?
You're actually quite right. One of the misunderstandings that we see in modern Chinese medicine is that people try to make it into a biological thing. And in fact, all science is cultural, right? So this is like, let's start with that as a basic assumption. So it means that all science is based on particular kind of assumptions, which usually people do not question, because otherwise the whole idea of thinking falls apart. As soon as you start assumption basic questions, then everything starts to become crazy. At the moment, when you look at Chinese medicine, the cultural idea is that the channels are the result of experiencing yourself, right? So that means that people who do not experience themselves because they have a very bad, say, physiological self-experience, they have hardly developed channels. So that means that their natural processes of decay very quickly set in. Already from a young age, they start to become stiff, limited in their movements in general, or they start having all kind of vulnerabilities for disease, allergies, asthma maybe, or all kind of other things. And as a result of that, gradually over time, because of accidents, whatever kind of effects, you start having an accumulation of negative influences on your body and on your health. And as a result of that, you age fast. And because you age faster, at a certain point, you, how do you say that? Yeah, you die. That's basically it. Yes. So that's a very important part. Yeah, that's just a logical conclusion of everybody, basically who dies. And that is because people usually did not pay much attention to their health over time. Even though they went to the gym, they take care of their food. Hey meisjes, ik ben aan het lesgeven. Kun je dat zien? Kun je daar weggaan alsjeblieft? Meisjes, stop met vechten met elkaar. Geef me die sleutel hier. Meisjes, kom hier die sleutel. Ga naar buiten toe. Ja, andere keer, schatje. Ik ben aan het lesgeven. Kijk, je zet me niet voor gek voor heel de wereld. Yes? Okay, I did that in Dutch because it was very embarrassing. So I hope you don't mind. No, just leave my key here. My kids are just as bad as me. They would almost lock me out from my own house. Yeah, can you please go? Can you please go? The people are waiting for me. This is not cute, okay? Children. I can hardly imagine when I see that I was one like that as well, or maybe I was even worse than that. Should ask my parents. Fortunately, they're not on Facebook or YouTube, so it can't. But where was I? Can you remember me, Rami?
About the channels.
Yes, about the channels, yes. So the idea is, and this is something that is philosophically, right? Have you ever read Michel Foucault by accident? Michel Foucault. Okay, most people, they don't know him anymore nowadays. I have him in a very high regard. But one thing he did in a book, textbook, called The Birth of the Clinic, written in French, by the way. It's translated in English, but it is written in French. But he writes there that the medical establishment is one of gradually growing authority of the medical profession over the individual. So that means that the authority of the knowledge of the body, which was first with the church, then it eventually becomes part of the medical establishment. So the medical establishment has full authority over your health. You see this in the public laws that everybody has. Countries have their foundational law principles and so on. And in all these laws all over the world, they have basically the same thing. They say in case of medical emergencies, disasters, epidemics, and so on, medical regulation goes in advance of your personal freedoms or your personal rights as a citizen, right? So in that case, they can shore up your legal rights, and then democracy is temporarily suspended. That's basically it. But in dictatorships, also the same way, they have the same principle. So in case of medical emergency, the health of the population is basically the essence of a country. So that goes first, and then everything else is suspended. This is what we saw lately with the Corona thing happening, basically. Although nobody really invocated that law, but that's based on that provision that people have. But Chinese medicine is completely different. It is not based on the authority of the medical people over the clients. Although you must say that in modern Chinese medicine, that is the last, say, 3-4 century or so, you see that there is this growing superstition about medical people, that they know everything just by feeling the pulse and watching your eyes and stuff like this. And this is just clear nonsense. Any great medicine master will say, if I don't ask you questions, I don't know what's wrong with you, right? So you can be very sensitive, you can know all kinds of things, but if I don't ask you questions, I don't know what it means. So you need to create context because of the way how you question your clients. Because the only person who is specialist in what is happening on the inside, that is you. At least that should be. And the problem is that most people are not. They have never exercised in a way so that they could get to know each other. In the previous class, we were talking about that the coming period, we're going to start focusing on the organ massage and on the meditations for the 5 dragons. This is psychological practice and so on and so on. Color breathing, and we do this for the simple reason that individuals need to become more self-aware of all kinds of things. And in Chinese medicine, it's especially important that you, as a therapist, you are specialized very much in what you are. So that means that the official training, the actual training for Chinese medicine people is, to a large degree, is the Taoist training of self-cultivation, with a little bit more emphasis maybe on the medical implications. So, like for instance, in my work as a Taoist, I study myself, but I also continuously reflect on my clients and on myself in a sort of interaction to make sure that I exactly know what is going on with my clients. So my students also the same. When they have something, I try to continuously mirror on what's happening inside myself, what is there present. When you talk about the channels in that sense, when you become specialized in yourself, you also automatically start cultivating the quality of your channels. So the channels are there, right? Like almost like in potential, and they become better when you work more with them, right? And if you don't work much with them, even though you exercise, maybe even through exercise, you do not develop them necessarily, right? You might develop something, but maybe not your channels, because many exercise, like strength exercise, cardio, and so on, they block your channels. They create heat and stagnation and exhaustion and so on, and they block your channels. So you're basically undermining your channels, with as a result that you actually are going to become more vulnerable, according to Chinese medicine theory anyway, for all kind of diseases and aging. Not immediately, because in the beginning you feel great, but when the addictive effect of modern exercise is fading away, then you start noticing, like when you take drugs and stuff like this, afterwards you think like, why did I do this, right? So it is the same, because you become exhausted. Then what happened actually with Chinese medicine, and this is a little bit of a tragic thing, that they are aware of this kind of things in Chinese government for Chinese medicine also. What I experienced anyway in the meetings that I was present with from the Ministry of Chinese Medicine, is that the in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, they were continuously re-engineering Chinese medicine to make it suitable to fit with Western medicine. So they aligned channels more suitable with blood vessels and neural trajectories and so on. So that all the research that's being done actually confirms the truth of Chinese medicine. Yeah, you see, that's a little bit of an ironic thing, because Chinese medicine, as it is intended, is completely not like that, because there's no such thing as neural thing per se for Chinese medicine. They might have discovered this over time. It doesn't really matter that much, but it is the experience of the channels that is important. And that is something that you have to learn. You have to learn to do that, and you have to learn to allow it, and you have to learn to create a kind of physiology that allows the free flow of all kind of things in your body. And then what is flowing is then the next important thing to ask, right? So these channels in itself, yes, they're important, but in the way how they're being put into traditional Chinese books, they are very vague, so that's just only illustrating that the experience of the channels is more important than the location of the channels. Yes? So the association with nervous systems and blood vessels and so on, that is actually a falsification. It's interesting, but it's a falsification. It's
So
a little
the
bit.
channel itself, they're not actually physical structure and channel. It's the pathway of.
It is a physical structure, but it is a combination of structures. So it can be part of the waterways, can be part of your lymph drainage, it can be part of your connective tissues, can be part of your blood vessels, can be part of your neural system, and all these things, they interact with each other and they create particular kind of flows of experience. And this is basically what is important. And this is where also people very often get confused, because then they start talking about energy, for instance. While in fact, what you talk about is information. You don't talk about energy. Yes. So then, according to Chinese medicine, they say, okay, the channels, they have different kind of contents depending on the location, the kind of channel, what their connection is. So they're networks, they're organs in themselves, actually. And at the moment when you look at these channels, then at that moment you can say, okay, this organ, this channel transports information, say for the muscles, and this one for your intestines, this one for that. So the what we talk about, the chi of the channel, is usually just a message, right? It's just a message like, go do this, go do that. And that's a little bit similar like what the neural system does. So this is also where the confusion comes from. But there's like a downstream and there's an upstream in the body, but these are very different from what happens in neurology and so on.
But Chinese medicine also study the nerves and the muscles.
Yeah. So when you study Chinese medicine in a very serious way, then gradually you start understanding how these interactions take place, and you learn to discern how they interact and why they interact and how you can use them to your advantage, because this is where acupuncture is based on, right? So you have to order yourself properly to be able to know what you have to do with your clients. That's basically it. Yes? And I see. Yeah? What?
And about the other thing about running.
Yes, what is your other question?
About running, what do you think of that as an exercise?
Oh, well, walking is a very good exercise, especially with your attention in the dantian, right? With your body properly open. So these kind of things, they are very good. Running in itself, if it's not too fast, it is okay. But it is part of military training to go running. In Chinese medicine, in general, there is the assumption that as soon as you start sweating, you're overheating. So that means that you're exhausting your heart, right? It's the same like when you meditate and you come into bliss, and at that moment you're exhausting your heart. So that is also why when you stay in bliss for some time, at a certain point you become exhausted and you might become sentimental as a result of that. That is because of the overheating of the heart, and eventually you crash. And so this is why the bliss always enters with this sentimentality. And it also leaves you very vulnerable. So at the moment when you have done that after the meditation, somebody says something bad to you, it rips into your heart immediately, because you have exhausted yourself. You have very little resistance against it. So this is what is very important. But running in itself, it is not necessarily bad, but jogging is more healthy than running. Yeah, you know what is jogging, right? It's like basically walking as if you're not really feel like running.
It's more calm.
Yeah, it is more like it's you're moving your whole body, but you don't try to exhaust yourself too much.
There's indigenous who run a lot. You know, the famous ones in Mexico, Tarahumara,
Yeah.
I think in Africa.
Yeah.
And so, I guess they're used to it, so they do it, and they don't hurt themselves.
But they didn't have horses, to transport communication. So they used running to transport communication. And you have to understand that the people who were running, they were basically slaves. So they didn't have much choice. If they didn't run, they would be killed. So socially and politically, it was a little bit different. It's not that they were running as a volunteer, right? They were not being paid for it. They were being forced to do that because otherwise somebody would be punished one way or another, they themselves or something else. So they were forced into that kind of labor. And maybe they were talented or something like this. Maybe they were good at it. Maybe they even enjoyed it. Yeah, because when you run, you get into this runner's high at some point. But this runner high means basically that your body is being exhausted and that the body actually says you should stop now because that's healthier, right? So what people experience as a runner high, they see it as a boon, but it actually means like, if you don't stop now, then you're going to go too far. So the runner high is a negative effect, actually. Yeah, because it. Yeah. So this is.
I heard some theory that.
Yeah. What is the theory?
I heard some theory that we evolved running a lot, like chasing animals, and then so we evolved a certain. Yeah.
Yeah. So people did run a lot because they had to run for animals that wanted to eat them, and they run a lot because of animals they wanted to chase. So it's not that running is not part of our repertoire, but it is not like what we do as a sport. Like there's this Japanese marathon with 275 kilometers or something, or miles, something like this. These kind of things, they are ridiculous. Your body is not made for it. You can do it, but you have to question if it's going to be healthy. Even running like the regular marathon of 45 kilometers or so, 42 kilometers, even that one, you can ask yourself, like, why would I do that? Yeah, it's not healthy to do it. Yes, it might feel great, yes, but that's not necessarily right. Yeah, so health-wise, I would say no, don't do it. So like same like bungee jumping or all these kind of things, all the exciting things, snowboarding. These are things which give you a very high level of chance that eventually you're going to have some damage somewhere that is not going to be repairable after some time, right? So it's going to affect the rest of your life. For the same reason, then in Chinese medicine, they would say, no, I shouldn't do that. Yes. And then this is a nice anecdote. I had a student who he and his brother, they were working for a bungee jumping company, and he wanted to invite me all the time. He invited me many times to come there also because he wanted to see how I, as a Taoist, would bungee jump. So I was like, yeah, very soon, very soon. I never really went because as a Taoist, I would never jump over bungee jump thing for the simple reason that it might be exciting, but excitement is not what you're looking for in life. Yeah. You might want excitement, but for your health, excitement can be detrimental. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't be happy or satisfied and stuff like this, because I don't want to say like the Taoism or Chinese medicine says that you should not be happy and satisfied, but you should do that in a calm and serene way. Yeah, so also when you exercise, you don't want to give up your calm at that moment, and getting into a runner's high is not calm. But sometimes running is not bad. But if you do it as a regular thing, it might actually be harmful. Also, statistically, I think they found that people who do intensive exercise, they have like 40% chance for developing depressions. And there was even a research that I once saw, I don't know, remember anymore now, that they said that if you run every day, or every 3 or 4 times a week or something like this, that you live shorter than somebody who just sits on the couch the whole day. Yeah, so that's not a very good sign also. Sitting on the couch, of course, also not very healthy. So it means that compared to somebody who does exercise, but in a very mild way, actually lives the longest. You know? But like I said before, also like the Dowland program is based on these kind of researches. And the idea is that you do a lot of different kind of things from everything a little, so you don't do anything excessive. Yes? Like also in Wudang Taoism, you don't play Kung Fu the whole day. You do exercise, different kind of exercises to make sure that your body becomes healthy and strong. You do everything on average, so that on average you become stronger and stronger over time, so that when you're 80 or 90, you can still do things very well. Right? Like with Shaolin, with 40, 45, you're finished. So you have to do something completely different to be able to survive. But that is only important for the mind, because Buddhism is focused on the mind, but Taoism is focused on the body. Chinese medicine is focused on the body, same, because Chinese medicine originally is Taoist medicine, right? So you have to develop that kind of openness. Yes? All right. Does that answer your question like that about running and your channels also?
Yeah.
Okay. I saw here also from Claudia another question. How does meditation helps with intestinal problems? And this is a very interesting question actually on a Chinese medicine level. When people meditate a lot, they actually start getting diarrhea, right? When they meditate a lot, then they all the time sit in the same position. And even which leg is up also can determine if people develop diarrhea or not. Some people, they become too hot when meditating, and they start developing constipation. Like if you continuously meditate on the dantian, for instance, and you create all the time fire in the dantian, heat in the dantian to steam up the yang and bring it to the dumai. This is also why in the meditation cycle we cool down and we make warm at the same time. We learn to alternate these things once we are ready to do that. But then if you don't cool down every now and then, you gradually develop constipation, and constipation exhausts your intestines. So the intestines in itself, they are like in Chinese medicine, they are like seen as a metaphor for the countryside, not wilderness especially, but the countryside. You can look into the wilderness series actually for that purpose, right, on YouTube. And the purpose is that you actually organize your intestines in such a way gradually over time to make sure that your body becomes calm and that there's going to be space for the dantian. Because usually when the belly is very full, the intestines are very full, there's no space for the dantian. So normally they say the dantian develops very slowly and very difficultly if your intestines are very full. Oh, my daughter just wrote a nice Chinese thing. She's doing her Chinese lesson at the moment. So, okay, thank you, sweetie. Huh? Very nice. Can I go play with you? It's very sweet, of course, but they're getting older, right? They're now getting more involved with their Chineseness and with the Kung Fu and also with medicine and stuff like this. They start thinking and talking about it. And as a result of these things, they get more fun in doing all these other kind of things. And which in some like Chinese families that I know, they do very disciplinary language training and so on. And I have to make more light because it's getting too dark. Sorry. Is this light better? This light's better. This light's better. No, the first light is better. No, also not. Let's do it off and on again. It's maybe a little bit better. No, not. Maybe more indirect light. So yeah, this is a little bit better. It's better than nothing, right? Anyway, what am I talking about? Oh yes, children. Children education in itself is of course very important for Chinese medicine. But they're also very playful. You can really see that they become at an age that they need more and more attention to stay into that enthusiasm at the same time. And that is also with a lot of people when they're doing all kinds of things. Talking about the intestine further, right? So the regulation of your diet is very important to develop your intestines. So Chinese medicine says you should eat as little as possible. That doesn't mean that you have to not eat at all, but be very modest in your diet is a very important part. You have to eat variation and so on. Taoist medicine says, for instance, try to avoid grains, right? Because at the moment when you eat grains, your belly becomes fluffy and dampy because of that. And that means not only grains, but also pastas, noodles, and so on and so on. All these kind of things that people usually think like, oh, that's delicious. Yeah, you should try to avoid these kind of things, right? I remember when I was in Mexico, for instance, they had this maize bread, which was delicious, but it was really like very solid at the same time. And you go to a biological shop in the Netherlands, for instance, or in America, and you have this biological bread that also very often much more tight. And that is actually exactly what Taoists actually warn against. Because they say like, okay, if you eat a lot of bread, then that becomes like a clay inside your body. Nee. Okay, that's Marina. Let me check Marina.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Finally, it took some. So we get a Q&A thing, but it is
Like
there's a
what?
sort of delay I see in the Facebook page.
Inside your body?
So sorry, going something wrong here too. That was the Facebook page that was talking. So the intestines in itself, they become filled up with all these clay things. It's the same with eating meat and all this kind of thing. So Taoists usually advise against eating these things when you do meditation. They're not going as far as some Indian meditators that you have to continuously fast or something like this. But they just say like be modest in your food. If there's space in your intestines, then that already helps. They say also generally in Chinese medicine, you should not eat if you still have food remains in your intestines. So you should first void yourself and then you should go eat. So it means that eating for some people is going to be very irregular because they have to wait until their stool comes out, right? And then they go eat. So that's a very difficult part. And this is also the reason why Taoists generally they are a little bit more thin than average, for the fact that they don't have much time to eat because sitting in meditation in itself can give intestinal problems. Yes. Yes. So the amount of problems that you can get from within meditation can be many things. Can be because of your diet, can be because of creating too much fire, can be because of cooling down too much. So there's all kind of things, and you actually have to accumulate over time quite a lot of information about your body before you can really meditate properly. If you just sit and meditate on the long term, it might lead to numbing of your head. And I remember I was in a group of people following Chongyam Trungpa. I don't know if you know about him. He's a Tibetan meditation master. At a certain point, they said like he's gone over to the other realm. But in fact, because of the deconstructing process of the kind of meditation that he did, he just got into Parkinson, Alzheimer's, something like this, right? He started losing his awareness of his environment, and he started doing strange things. When he was lucid enough, then he would lucid. I mean, in this world, right? Then at that moment he would sometimes do strange things. He would test people and so on, get paranoid, angry, all kind of stuff. And so there's this thing also in your mind. This is also why you don't let children meditate, because children, they learn to deconstruct their mind in a way too early stage, and as a result of that they don't learn to construct their mind. So they start with a deconstructed mind, and that means that they're going to get behind on other children, because then they start learning to develop themselves on a much later age, which can in some cases be very beneficial, but in most cases that might not be exactly right. Our culture is not built for these kind of things. Yes? Oh, that's a lot of information.
About this boy in Nepal who meditated on their tree for 7 years?
Yeah, I heard about it. I've seen a few videos from this guy. I don't know. It became a business, so I don't know. It's always very difficult. I mean, I have myself continuously, I have to think about that because the Darling program is meant for healthcare. But to make it successful, you have to make it into a business. But if it's too cheap, nobody wants it. If it's too expensive, it becomes too elite. So you have to continuously think about how things work. But at a certain point, they kept people on such a big distance that you don't know what actually happened. Yeah, so I was not there, I didn't see it, so I don't know what actually happened. But yeah, but it was very interesting, the fact that it was like that. But now I don't know. Did you hear anything from it?
I heard the Tibetans came and took him when he was finished after 7 years.
Really?
Yeah, they said he was Buddha.
Oh, okay. Well, who knows? I don't know. I'll look it up, see if I can find some more information about it. It's very difficult to say. Enlightenment is a very complicated thing, and I don't understand much of it. So I try to I try to keep myself a little bit away from these kind of things. I just happen to be very knowledgeable about what I do. That's all. So the main important for Taoists is to live forever. So they can, if I do well, they can put me in a spaceship, and I will still be alive when they arrive in Alpha Proxima or something like this. Proxima Centauri, what's the star called? 4 light years away. That's the whole idea. Otherwise, they have to change me into a robot or a machine or something like this. And I don't think robots can ever be human. Yes. Did that answer your questions, guys? Okay, very good. I have no questions here in this page here, and I have to check actually what happened to the YouTube page. So I'm not going to do that now, and see if I am there available on stream. My videos, I guess I have to go look at streaming. Live. Yeah, it is live there also. Oh, I'm live on YouTube. I really there live. So it actually works. So this is a program that I just recently bought, and it's the first time we use it. So next time will be easier. If nobody else has any questions left at this moment, I had a lot of fun though. We start a little bit later than we normally do, but now I know how to do it, and then for next week I will create an announcement more early so that people can sign up for it more early also. Yes? All right, very good. Everybody, thank you very much for being present and for your attention. And I hope you had a lot of fun with it. I had a lot of fun with it. And I think we also made some progress with the way how we present this. And we're going to experiment with that in the future also. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions afterwards, don't hesitate to contact me. I always like to answer anybody's questions if you have them. That is what I live for, basically. And if you have a problem and I can help you solve it, so much the better. Take good care of yourself. And let me see if I can end it also. Oh, I have to do the phone. End broadcast.